Join Patti Conklin and Healing Within Radio each week. More than entertainment, Healing Within offers educational, useful tools for everyday life. Listen for help overcoming fear, anxiety, and depression. Patti knows about eliminating cancer, MS, dementia, Parkinson's, and a host of illnesses that we face every day. Life can be good. Life is good. All you need are simple tools to start changing your life. Start right now by visiting PattiConklin.com, PattiConklin. No matter where you are in the world, you can work with Patti through Skype, phone, or in person, visiting one of her retreats in Georgia. Visit PattiConklin.com today, or call our offices at 404-474-0086. That's PattiConklin.com, or call 404-474-0086.
Hi everyone, this is Patti Conklin and Healing Within. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really look forward to having this time to share with you and introducing my guest to you. I think we're just going to have a fabulous show to really help you continue with the overcoming fear. Just really looking at what fear is and different ways to overcome it and sometimes the core of what creates fear. So my guest today is Dean Sluyter, and he's taught natural methods of meditation and awakening throughout the U.S. and beyond since 1970, from colleges and yoga studios to corporate offices and maximum security prisons. He's known for his warm, funny, down-to-earth style, which I can already relate to because he's already picking on me about being in Santa Monica, and for making authentic, life-transforming teachings accessible and easy. A grateful number of, I can read this, of sages in several traditions. He has completed numerous retreats and pilgrimage in India, Tibet, Nepal, and the West. Dean's books include Natural Meditation, winner of the Nautilus Award for Best Book on Body, Mind, and Spirit Practices. He's appeared frequently in national media, including the New York Times, National Public Radio, Coast to Coast AM, and the Oprah magazine. When not writing or teaching, Dean plays the ukulele and happily rides his Vespa throughout the streets of Santa Monica, and that really makes me just a little bit envious. I don't know that envy is in my nature until I read that, and just I used to be in Santa Monica every year, and just loved riding downtown. So I wonder if that ukulele I heard years ago was you.
Might have been.
Welcome, Dean. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for being on. So how long have you been in Santa Monica?
I've been living here for 9 years.
Uh-huh. And did you know of snow before you went to, I guess you did in Nepal and Tibet and so forth, so you've been around it. But where were you born?
Well, it's a long story. I was born in Long Island, lived there for 6 years, and then I actually lived in a different part of the Los Angeles area in the Valley. I'm not sure if people outside of here know of the Valley.
The Valley.
But then I was out of there like a shot as soon as I graduated from high school and wound up really kind of all over the country and different parts of Europe and so forth, wandering around. So, you don't sound like a Long Islander. I'm an upstate girl. So we tend to pay attention to those downstate accents. But I guess you've lost it through the years. Yeah.
But
well, I as a matter of fact, and actually this will touch on our topic. When we moved out here to LA from Long Island when I was 6, and I remember very distinctly being on the playground with the other kids and talking about getting a pair of socks out of my drawer. And all the kids laughed at me for talking funny, for saying draw. And I walked off. I sat down on a curb and practiced saying over and over again, drawer. Yes. And to this day, I still have a little trouble with that word. I don't know how long to keep going on the R.
You know where I always get stuck? I always talk about the eaves. And people down here in the South look at me, I'm in Georgia, and they're like, gutters? I'm like, oh yeah, those things, those eaves. And the one point that I always struggled with is, people would say, I'm feeling ill down here. And I'm like, you don't feel good? They're like, no, I'm feeling ill. It's like, well, what are you feeling ill for? You're telling me you feel okay. And they're like, I'm mad. I'm like, oh. So, I think it's being a world traveler. I love going in and listening to different cultures and accents and so forth. But moving to the South was its education in its own way in terms of listening to words. And words carry so much meaning, as you and I both know. So let's get into today's topic. Fear, natural survival response. And in the modern world, it gets unnaturally overstimulated. And we are really in a time of overstimulation, not just the United States, but worldwide. What do you think's going on?
Well, it really is, it's a neurological story. We basically have the same nervous systems that we had when we were living in caves. And we are tuned to hear, for example, certain sounds. We hear the roar, and that's the woolly mammoth, or is the saber-toothed tiger, and that is our cue to either stand there and fight it and hopefully, capture it and bring it home for lunch, or else to run away. It's called fight or flight syndrome.
Right.
And neurologically, that comes from stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system. Which is fine. So we need that. We need that surge of, when that fight or flight syndrome is stimulated, when the sympathetic branch of the nervous system is stimulated, then the heart beats faster, you get this surge of energy, your mouth gets dry, and so forth. It's necessary. However, in the modern world, you hear that roar, and it's no longer a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger. It's just a crosstown bus.
Right.
So that's the story in a nutshell. So over and over, the sympathetic nervous system gets overstimulated. So what this requires us to do is balance things out by cooling out the sympathetic branch of the nervous system and activating the parasympathetic branch. And that brings about something that's essentially the opposite of fight or flight syndrome. We could call it the stay and play syndrome. That sense that everything's fine right here. There's nothing I have to do to change this moment. And that's what we call, for lack of a better word, meditation. All these various meditative methods, breathing methods, and so forth are essentially there to, in neurological terms, just tell the sympathetic branch to cool it for a while and let the parasympathetic take over.
Right. Talk to me a little bit about your book, Natural Meditation. When did you write it? I mean, when did you really start getting involved in meditation? And was there life before teaching meditation? Or has that been a part of you?
It's been a part of me all the way along. I got interested in this stuff when I was in high school, which was in the 60s, and books about this stuff were much harder to find then. But I became interested because of some spontaneous kind of opening experiences that I had in childhood that just came from out of the blue and left me saying, whoa, what was that? And where can I get more?
Yeah.
So I was onto it pretty early. And by the time I was 16, 17, I was practicing meditation and seeking out teachers. And the first couple of teachers that I found taught meditation the way it's very commonly taught, which is that it's a big task.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And that, and it's the way I think meditation has become much more accepted now, much more mainstream. Of course, everyone by now, knows someone that's practiced meditation or they've practiced meditation. They've got classes at the YMCA and adult education and so forth. But the missing piece still for most people is they think that it's hard. They think that it means, you have to sit without moving. If your nose starts itching in the first minute, you just got to sit there and itch for 20 minutes because if you scratch it, the meditation police will take you away.
That's right. And you've got to sit there for an hour. I mean, you've just got to take time and sit there for an hour and go into that meditative state. Yeah.
And you have to clear your mind. You have to suppress your thoughts. All this very unnatural stuff. Now, the first couple of teachers that I had were teaching in that way, and I realized, this is not going to work for me. So I found teachers that said, no, that's actually self-defeating. Trying to meditate by trying to suppress the mind it's like trying to make a still ocean, a silent ocean, by taking a big paddle and going wham, 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 trying to flatten out all the waves.
I so agree.
Yeah, it does not work. Now, so what I found was teachers that said, you know what, forget about what's going on the surface. Just allow gravity to pull you a foot or two below the surface, and there you discover that the water is silent right now and always. In other words, what we do is we settle below the level of the thinking mind into awareness. Awareness is different from thinking, and awareness is silent right now and always. The awareness that witnesses all of our thoughts, that witnesses all of our seeing and hearing and feeling, that's been there. It's been the same since the moment you were born. Witnessed your 7th birthday, blowing out the candles on the cake, witnessed your first kiss. All of that silent thread that's run through all our experience is there right now, and we can settle into it. And that's where the silence, the peace that we're looking for is, and neurologically, that's where the sympathetic nervous system gets cooled out and the parasympathetic takes over.
Yeah, so true, so true. I remember being a kid and hating shots. And so I'd go to the dentist to get a filling, and I would put myself into a state of hypnosis. I absolutely refused to do the shot. And so I would get fillings and all that good stuff for the drill in just a state of relaxation. And I would just take my mind to that wave, to Cayuga Lake, and just kind of put myself there. And we'll talk more about that when we come back. But, you know, my 6-year-old grandson last week said to me, I want to learn how to hypnotize people. And I looked at him and I'm like, where did you learn the word hypnotize? And he's like, I don't know. It's where you can help people and I can control them, right? I'm like, well, no, you can't control them. A nice thought, being 6. But the fact that he was aware of the quiet and the stillness was amazing to me. So let's continue our conversation as we come back. And thank you so much, folks. It's Patti Conklin, and my guest today is Dean Sluyter, and we're going to have an awesome show continuing. Let's get with it. Thank you so much. Welcome back, everyone. It's Patti Conklin, and my guest today is Dean Sluyter, and we're talking about overcoming fear and various ways that fear comes into our lives, and some of the different modalities that we can use to overcome it and to quiet it and to rationalize it or be with it. One of the many ways, and hypnosis obviously is one that people use. I tend to have this philosophy, Dean. I don't know about you, but all of my CDs are about 12 minutes long, and that's it. And people say, well, what can you get accomplished in 12 minutes? And I'm like, anything you can get accomplished in an hour and more, because you don't need an hour to quiet, to be still, to go into that meditative state. You were talking.
It's so funny you say that, because on my website, which I want to invite people to visit, it's deansluyter.com, but Sluyter is too hard to spell, so you can get there with deanwords.com. And there's a link right on the homepage that says Meditate Now, and that's where I've got a guided meditation track available, and it's 12 minutes long.
When I first heard your laugh and I heard you were a downstater, I knew we were going to get along really well. So that's good.
And, with reference to what we were saying in the first segment, where people usually understand or misunderstand meditation as something very difficult, where you have to concentrate, you have to still your mind, and you have to sit for an hour. Now, there's an explanation to that, which is that trying to meditate by concentrating, by struggling to push thoughts away, it's self-defeating, because just like trying to flatten out all the waves on the ocean, you wind up stirring up the water worse.
Yes.
Rather than just, through the method that I teach and that I learned from my own teachers, natural meditation, you allow yourself to sink into the underlying water that's silent all the time. Yeah. Now, nevertheless, all these people that tell you, oh, I've been doing this meditation and it's really hard and I have to sit for an hour or 2 hours every day, but it's really worth it. If we analyze what's going on there, it's actually quite interesting. Is they keep trying to concentrate, trying to concentrate, trying to push away the thoughts, trying to still the mind, trying to do these very unnatural things. That's exhausting. Yes. And if you try to do that, you keep trying to do that, after about, let's say, 48 minutes, the mind gets so exhausted that it gives up and it surrenders, and then you sink. You give up trying to concentrate, and then
absolutely. And then you get your 12 minutes.
Then you get your 12 minutes of and then you come out and say, well, that was really great. It was a struggle, but it was worth it. So what I learned from my teachers and the way I teach is, let's go straight to that last 12 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. Let's go to that last 12 minutes and just get there. I think people, and it's been taught for years, and I think people are finally waking up to it, in that we don't have to have that hour. People use it as a justification not to do meditation, because they're like, I don't have time to do meditation. I don't have that hour. Right. And so therefore I can't. Right. And it's like, no, you can take 12 minutes. And if you can't take 12 minutes, you got something going on in your life that you really need to be dealing with, because we can all take that 12 minutes. Right. Whether you spend 12 minutes in the shower, I don't care. Take that 12 minutes and have that quiet. And, yes, we can look at the gurus and the yogis and so forth that can sit in a meditative state for hours. If I'm sitting on water, whether I'm on the ocean or a lake or a stream, I can sit for hours and just watch the rippling of the waves. And my mind just goes blank, and that's good. But if I'm sitting in my home and I want to meditate, it's that 12 minutes, and your body can accomplish so much in 12 minutes versus, in our healing state and in our overcoming fear. So talk to me about your new book.
So my new book is, now it's funny. People do that all the time. They want to pronounce it fearless, because that's become a very popular word.
Oh, what is it?
But it's two words. It's fearless.
Aha.
Fearless. We don't have to be fearless, which is fortunate, because I haven't met anyone who's fearless. I'm not fearless. If I wrote a book titled Fearless and I'm not fearless, that would be rank hypocrisy. I tell a little story in the book about meeting the Dalai Lama and hearing him talk about how he's scared of worms. So, but he was laughing when he was talking about it. So that kind of is the clue right there, that our fears, and actually the subtitle of the book is Living Beyond Fear, Anxiety, Anger, and Addiction. And really, we kind of ran out of room on the cover. We could have kept going, shame, depression, guilt, loneliness,
all of it,
et cetera, because it all comes from the same place. All of those, what in Buddhist philosophy is called the afflictive emotions. And fear is kind of at the root of all of them. They're like big, scary monsters looming above us. That's how they seem. But if we look closely, we see they're like, the balloons in the Macy's Day Parade.
Yes.
They're big and they loom over you, but it's because they're pumped full of hot air.
Very true.
And that hot air is the stories that we tell ourselves about them, and that society tells us about them. It's all those just thought structures, all that self-talk that we do about, and we just inflate the stuff. So what I do in my book, Fear Less, is essentially give you a bunch of little pins, because all it takes is a couple of little pricks from a pin to put some holes in those balloons, and not right away necessarily, but pretty quickly they start to deflate. And they may never completely go away, just like the Dalai Lama's fear of worms has not completely gone away. But after a while, instead of being these big scary things looming above you, there are these little soft, cuddly things bouncing around your ankles. They're deflating.
Spiders can't be soft, cuddly. Although I agree with you that it lessens. I mean, I remember my oldest son being 16 months old, and I was walking into the bathroom, and there was a spider in the bathtub. Now, I wasn't using the bathtub, but I had to walk by the bathtub. I insisted this 16-month-old go get a cup and get the spider in the cup and take it outside, because I needed to use the restroom and I couldn't walk by the spider. Now, 60 years later, I can walk by the spider and I'm okay. Do I love it? No, but I know it's not going to jump out of the bathtub and scare me. Right. So I do think that, over time things become lessened as long as we face it. And I talked to one of my other guests about the only time I really experience severe anxiety is going into a restaurant when I'm by myself, and not when I'm working. When I'm on the road working, that no problem. But personally, I will sit in the car and cry for a half hour before I can get the guts to go in. And what I tell myself is, you're in anxiety, and that's okay. And nothing's going to be scary once you get inside the door and sit down. So allow yourself, give yourself approval to cry if that's what you need to do, and then get up and go in the restaurant. And I think that it's okay for people to recognize sometimes that they're fearful about something. I think where I would maybe chastise myself if I had a belief in that, would be to start the car up and leave the restaurant, so if I need to cry for a half hour before I go in, that's okay. You go in and the waitress looks at you, are you okay? I'm like, I'm here, I'm sitting, it's good. But I think that you're right. Fear less is so important. And the acronym I use when I'm teaching is FEAR, because I believe it's love and fear, not love and hate. Is love and fear is forgetting every available resource. And that's the strength you have inside of you to move forward with whatever it is that you need to face, whether it's a medical issue, whether it's a work-related issue that you need to take care of. And meditation is a wonderful
it's a wonderful
modality.
Resource. It's a wonderful resource
to move us into it.
So the fact that over the years, I mean, this is a very good example, a couple of examples you've given. The fear of spiders is still there, but it's softened up some. The fear of going into the restaurant alone is there, but it's softened up some. Now, that's going to happen. Anyone who's sitting and doing meditation in an effective, natural way, all that stuff is going to soften up some. Also, there are resources. I love that. What is it? Forgetting every available resource. So, and this is what I do in the book, Fear Less, is I give a bunch of resources, including the natural meditation, that people can do right in the moment. So, for example, and this is the one, and I've gotten emails from people all over the world about this one. In fact, when the book was published, the Oprah.com excerpted this. It's still up on their website. It's a little 2-page chapter titled "Breathe Through Your Feet." And this is something we can do right now, actually, you and I and people listening. We've got 1 minute, we can do this. So as you breathe in, your next breath, just breathing in normally, just kind of feel or imagine you're breathing in through the soles of your feet. Then as you breathe out, breathing out through the soles of your feet. Breathing in through the soles of your feet, and breathing out through the soles of your feet, not trying to concentrate, not trying to do anything else, just easily. Next, again, breathing in through the soles of the feet, and breathing out through the soles of the feet.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And we'll talk about this when we come back.
When we come back. Thank you so much. It's Patti Conklin, folks. We'll see you in a minute. welcome back, everyone. This is Patti Conklin with my guest, just having an awesome time, Dean Sluyter. Thank you so much for being here today, Dean, and talking to us about meditation and your new book, Fear Less. It sounds awesome. One of the things is we were doing our exercise of breathing in through the feet, and there's a live recording of it somewhere. When I do color works and I ask people to breathe in the color through the soles of their feet, up their body and out their mouth. And so we were recording live, and so I said to the audience, so breathe in through your feet. And everybody cracked up because I meant breathe in through your nose and bring the color in through the bottom of your feet. But I love the idea. It was such a natural to breathe in through the soles of the feet. When did you start working with that?
That particular one, I'm not sure. That one, it kind of came to me from somewhere out of the blue. In the early days of my teaching, back in 1970, I never would have improvised like that. It's a little like playing an instrument. At first, you just play the notes as they're written, but then, like as in jazz, when you get better at it and you get more confident, you can start improvising some. And yes. Somehow I'm always doing some, research and development in my own practice, and then I discovered, oh boy, this really works, and it just right away cools me out. And then I try it on a couple people in my family. If it's good with them, and no one turns into a monkey or anything, then I'll do it with a little local meditation group that we host here in Santa Monica, and then work it into my workshops and put it in the next book. Yeah. What's interesting is when the book came out, I got an email from a yoga teacher in Austin who said, "Oh, I really love your breathing through the feet technique. Of course, I understand that you base that on the research of Professor so-and-so, the expert on physiology, who showed the connection between the arches of the feet and the vagus nerve and the blah, blah, blah." So
Don't you love that? You love that?
I said, yeah, okay. But that's the way, for example, in many people, if they take yoga classes, they're familiar with what's called ujjayi breath. I call it Darth Vader breath. That's the one where you do the little constriction in the back of your throat. So as you breathe in and out, it sounds like.
Oh, that's a good Darth Vader.
Thank you.
Good Darth Vader. Yeah,
I've been working on that. And what people find, what the yogis in ancient India found thousands of years ago, and people find today in their own practice, is that also is very, very effective in settling things out, in settling out the sympathetic nervous system and activating the parasympathetic. It turns out the reason is that when you constrict the back of your throat there, you're activating the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the autonomic nervous system and goes from the base of the brain all the way down to the bottom of the spine and is deeply connected with the breathing. So the yogis did not know why it worked, but they knew that it worked. So that's fine. So, now, another approach that I like to share with people is, and I've got a chapter in the book with the title, Drop Your Thoughts. Drop your thoughts. One approach, which you were talking about before, and, walking into the restaurant, it involves kind of analyzing the thoughts and replacing your negative, fearful thoughts with more encouraging thoughts. And that has certain value. But another approach, which I really like, just cuts through all that. And the way I like to do it is I clap my hands right in front of my eyes to just kind of startle myself a little bit. And then for 5 seconds, just drop it all. Not drop the negative thoughts just drop it all. And after 6 seconds, pick it up again.
Yeah.
Now, drop the thought doesn't mean that they have to go away. People say, "Oh, I'm trying to drop it, but it's still there." No. It just means you release your grip on it. You don't engage with it. Yeah. Now, the thing is, people say, and I hear this all the time, "Oh, I've been carrying this thing around with me for years. The whole stress of my bad divorce, my abusive parent or
the
whatever
story.
it is. It's that story is with me 24/7. Now, what I would ask them is, where is that story when you're parallel parking in a tight space?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're parallel parking in a tight space, you don't have the bandwidth available to maintain that story.
No, you are totally focused.
You're totally focused. You've dropped those thoughts. You actually drop the thoughts thousands of times a day. Every time you sneeze, every time you have to work on your taxes, every time. For that matter, 8 hours a night or whatever when you go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when you're sound asleep, are you a conservative or a liberal? When you're sound asleep, are you a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or a Buddhist or an atheist? None of the above. You can't be any of those without thoughts.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
But here's the tricky thing. Even though we drop the thoughts hundreds of times a day, every time we pick them up again, built into the thoughts is the thought, oh, this is here all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's like the backstory is built into it. That part is a lie. And if you see that clearly once, there's a lot of liberation in that. And also, if you just and I recommend, especially when people feel really caught up in a particular thing, I say, do this several times a day. You've been dropping your thoughts many times a day without realizing it. Do it consciously. Clap your hands in front of your eyes, or pinch yourself, or rap twice on the table.
Oh, I see a beautiful buoy going in the water with a line going down. That's my next fishing spot. Yeah.
Whatever, and just drop the thoughts for 5 seconds, and then pick them up again. Do both parts. After a while, you'll start saying, "Gee, why do I keep picking them up again?" And then that's when I say, "Indeed, why?"
Indeed, why? Yeah. Yeah, so true, so true. And it's so important for people to realize that, like you said, when you're sleeping, you're not any of the above. You're not liberal or conservative or whatever. And I think that people get so tied in, from my experience, to their story. It gives them validation as to why they're miserable. And if they let go of the story, and I was working with a beautiful woman with muscular dystrophy years ago, diagnosed at age 6, went into a wheelchair at 33, and we did some work, and within a few hours she was standing, and the next day she started walking. And as we were finishing up our appointment and kind of getting her used to the walking world, she was pushing back a little bit. And I said, what are you pushing back for? If your body can walk, and she's now a semi-professional dancer, what are you pushing back on? And we talked, and you know what it was? She didn't want to give up her handicap sticker on her car. and I mean, it took us a couple hours to get down to the car. And when she finally said that, and her eyes opened up huge, and she's like, I just walked down to the vending machine on my own without a scooter. And that's the first time in 10 years I've walked on my own, and I'm stuck because I don't want to give up my sticker, my handicap sticker. And I'm like, yeah. Right, and right. So, she got back home. Yeah.
So that's a great story. So this is the question we can each ask ourselves. What is my handicap sticker?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question.
What's my sad story that makes me feel, okay, this is crap, but it's my crap. This is crap, but it's the crap that defines me and gets me whatever the good parking spot gets me, the sympathy gives me the justification for not achieving the things that I'm afraid to achieve. And you can keep telling yourself that story if you like, or again, practice, clap your hands. Mm-hmm. You don't have to drop it forever. Drop it for 5 seconds, then pick it up again. Drop it for 5 seconds, pick it up again, and then see if you might start saying, gee, I don't need to pick this up again.
That's absolutely true. I mean, that's just a wonderful visualization for people to look at and think about, because, most people bond over their stories. And one of the things that I always talk to fellow practitioners about is, they have a long-term client, making them their friend. We have a very steadfast rule here in this office. I mean, we meet people all around the world that we'd like to be friends with. It's you get healthy, you wait 2 years of full health, and then you get in contact and we'll see about being friends. But so much of the time, people will become friends with their practitioners. And a lot of times they don't want to let go of the disease because they don't want to lose their friends. They're the only friends they have. And so as a practitioner, you have to stand back and go, no, wait, I'm not your friend. You're hiring me. There's a boundary.
The Buddha said that all the term he used was the Dharma, which means really all the methods, all the teachings, all the practitioners, all the teachers, all the meditations. He said they're like a raft. They carry us, we use the raft to cross the raging river of suffering to the far shore of nirvana. When you get to the far shore, you're very grateful to the raft, but it would be silly to carry it around on your back.
So true, my friends. So true. When we come back, we'll continue that line of thought because nobody needs to be carrying a raft around. Folks, you're with Patti Conklin and Dean Sluyter, and we'll be back in just a moment. This is Patti Conklin with my wonderful guest, Dean Sluyter. We're just having a really good show today, and I know we're bringing you lots of great information and modalities and thoughts and ideas about how you live everyday life in a fear-less mode, which is Dean's new book. And Dean, I love the analogy that the metaphor you just gave of crossing the raging river, but you don't need to keep the raft to keep and carry it around with you. You can let it go. Right. And I really want to encourage the people out there listening to really take that to heart. I mean, that's just a great. You don't need the continuation of practitioners around you as you move into a healthy life. Part of moving into that healthy life is and fear-less life is letting go of what helped you get there and creating a new adventure in the life. So talk to me a little bit more about your book, Dean, and some of your greatest challenges, maybe, or maybe your fun stuff.
Okay. I think one of the very greatest challenges, of course, for many people is the fear of death. And I have a chapter specifically about that. It's called The Valley of the Shadow. And right there in the title is kind of an insight into the situation. In that psalm that is so familiar to so many people, they talk about, lo, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear. Isn't it interesting? It's not the valley of death.
Yes.
It's the valley of the shadow of death. Death is not the problem. It's the psychological and emotional shadow that it casts. And actually, it doesn't cast it. We cast it. We project it. It's, as we were saying in the first segment, it's part of that hot air with which we inflate the big, scary balloon monsters of our fears. Yes. No one experiences death. It's all. I remember when I was a little kid, lying awake at night when I was about 7 years old, and I grew up in a house where there was no religion. So when I realized at the age of 7, oh crap, I'm going to die. I couldn't go running to my mom and have her reassure me it's okay, you'll just go to heaven and you'll see grandma and grandpa again. All that, there was none of that.
None of that, yeah.
And so I would lie there and I would imagine this like lonely spot out on a lonely hillside under this one for some reason I always saw it this way, under this one little scraggly tree, and I was 6 feet under the ground and people were walking back and forth over my head without even knowing I was there.
Yeah.
And that terrified me.
Yeah.
One time I actually got up out of bed and I ran to the neighbor's house to just, be with someone else. And that's not reality.
Right.
The reality is, well, first of all, backing up to meditation practice. When we practice natural meditation with some regularity, and it's really ideal to sit down and do it, as you were saying before, take some time every day.
Mm-hmm.
What we experience, and at first it may just seem like, oh, okay, that's relaxing, that's nice, I feel more mellow, more cooled out. But the more you practice it, especially when you practice with some consistency, it becomes more and more clear that what's going on is that as we settle into that silent ocean under the waves of our thinking, which is pure awareness, pure beingness, that all the stories that we let go of include the stories of who and what we thought we were. Like, I think I'm this body. But actually the body that I'm looking down and seeing right now is not the one I had when I was 25 years old.
Right.
It's not even the one that I had when I first got up this morning.
Mm-hmm.
The body is a constantly changing thing which I observe, which is witnessed by my awareness. The thoughts that I tend to identify with, oh, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, and I've got all these memories, my whole, iPhoto album of, oh, then this happened, and then I was married to this person, and bup, bup, bup. Those are thoughts which I am aware of. They are not the I. What the I is becomes clearer and clearer as you're left alone in that I in meditation, which is pure awareness, pure beingness, which is beyond time and beyond space. So that I always like when a newcomer comes to our meditation session and at the end they open their eyes and they put their hand up, and I always know when they're going to ask this question. I see the look on their face. They say, how long was that?
Uh-huh.
Was that 5 minutes? Was that an hour? And I never tell them the answer because any number of minutes that I say will be misleading. Because what happened was they sank into the silent waters of pure beingness below the surface where there is no time.
Right.
There is no space. There is no body. There is no all the little story selves that we have about ourselves, and we have many of them. Those are all left behind, and we experience what the Buddha called nirvana, what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven within you. And Jesus did not say the kingdom of heaven is up on a cloud after you die. It's within you. It's experienceable right now. So in that sense, meditation is not only the ideal preparation for living, it's practice dying. Because when you're letting the letting go that has to happen, when people are dying, you alluded to this before, really people avoid meditation because they don't want to let go of their stories. They don't want to let go of their various kinds of handicap stickers. And in meditation, inevitably you let go of all that stuff and you're left with, and you may have thought it was going to be scary. You're scared of the unknown, but actually you can't be scared of the unknown. You're scared of letting go of the known.
That's right, because you don't know what the unknown is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's the good news, folks, from a couple of people here who've been delving into it for years. Come on in, the water's fine.
So true. I love how you're phrasing it, because it really is true. It's not about time, because there is no such thing. It's not about space, because there isn't anything considerable space. It's us and how we view it. Sometimes I say, imagine watching a sunrise and you have no ability to think, to hear, to speak. All you've got is eyesight. The sunrise is simply a sunrise. It has no meaning other than the words that you choose to give it. A fabulous sunrise, or why did I get out of bed sunrise? And I know that there's times in my life, I also grew up in a household without religion. And I would find myself, even as a young child, if I got scared or spooked or just, didn't know where we were going to eat, when the government cheese and dry milk was going to be delivered, or when I'd be able to shoot a rabbit, for crying out loud, when I was a kid, I would go into my closet and I would take my blanket and my pillow in there, and people would say, wow, you're really depressed or you're hiding. And it's like, no, I would go in there to the deepest, darkest spot, because when I'd go in there and I lay still, I could see the light inside of me. And that comforted me.
Right.
Knowing that there was a light inside of me, not knowing what that light was, but knowing that there was a light, and it would reset me. And so I could go back out and face the world again. I think that being willing to let go of the story of we all have incredible adventures, and it's our choice as to whether or not they're incredible adventures or misadventures or devastating things. Our words are going to choose that, and our meditations, if we understand that it can be simple. It does not need to be complex. And I love your idea of just, making the clap, dropping it, and understanding at some point you don't need to pick it up. So in the last minute and a half here, what would you like to share with our viewers? What would you like to tell them? I
would like to tell them that it is easier than you think. That meditation, that dying for that matter, when it comes time to die, if you've been doing this kind of natural, just sinking into that light within, then when it comes time to die, you go, oh yeah, I've done this before. I tell people, you want to do the fire drill before the fire. So you've had the practice for living, you've had the practice for dying. It's so much easier than people think. I'd like to invite people to my website, deanwords.com, where there's a lot of free resources, including the Meditate Now link for the guided meditation tracks, and they can read chapters from my books, and also my teaching schedule. I travel all over the country. I lead workshops and retreats. I'm going to be in Texas in January. I'm going to be in New Jersey soon. I'm teaching stuff in California all the time. And so I hope people will come to deanwords.com.
Absolutely. It will be greatly to their benefit if they take the opportunity to be with you in those workshops, and certainly go to your website, which is deanwords.com, because folks, if you followed my stuff, it's all about our words. It's all about how we decide to utilize our words. So Dean, thank you so much for being a part of the show today of Healing Within, and I hope we get to do this again sometime. I'd really love to have you back on.
Me too, Patti. Beautiful. You're a lot of fun to play with.
You as well, Dean. So, folks, it's Patti Conklin and Healing Within. Thank you so much for being a part. We'll see you next time.
Patti Conklin grew up in Brooktondale, New York, with a unique ability. Unlike others, she could see how the vibration of words and emotions affected the physical body. She discovered how to release stored emotion and facilitate healing. This began today's Conklin method of cellular cleansing. The private practice grew with tremendous results, as did her reputation. More and more people sought her out, bringing her into the home for healing. She soon realized she could even teach this to others, and they could shift perception and thus prevent illness from occurring. Patti Conklin quickly became a frequent keynote speaker, and she developed a curriculum for teaching the Conklin method of cellular cleansing. For more information, visit PattiConklin.com, PattiConklin, PattiConklin.com, or call 404-474-0086. That's 404-474-0086.